This is who I was, but it's definitely not who I am. Welcome to Vegas Prison Stories. Welcome back. Tales from the Neighborhood. Here we go with this shit. It's gonna be gnarly. I mean, I can't even tell you guys. Well, obviously I can tell you. So what are you even talking about, Rick? I'm gonna tell you guys a whole lot of crazy stories about how we would get down in the neighborhood. You would have had to have been there for a lot of it to ever believe it. So in the neighborhood, it's mostly made up of a bunch of white dudes, right? But we did have two black dudes that grew up in the neighborhood in our generation. That's BG and that's Little Man, Little Matt. Now, Little Man, I told you guys a little bit about before. He came from the Donna Street Crips. His mom wanted him out of there. She moved him over to our neighborhood. Not any better for him. Just different change of scenery, and we were getting it. So when it comes to BG, BG is pretty well known all over Las Vegas. Like, BG has himself a reputation. He's a wild man. He's probably one of my favorite people ever. I always got along with BG. I don't think we ever had a beef. He just make you laugh. Like, the dude was wild. There's this one time we walked into this party, right? I won't even call it a party. It was more like a kickback. I don't even know where we're going. BG's like, hey, I know where there's a party. Let's go. All right, cool, BG. Let's fuck it, right? We walk through the door. BG immediately starts yelling, what? Don't you know I'm a mother gangster? Runs as fast as he can across the living room with both feet in the air, drop kicks this dude that's sitting on the couch in his chest. I mean, wow. Folds this dude. I could, what do you even do to something like that? Of course, I just started taking off on fools, and BG had to stop me like, no. They're cool. He's not. BG, how about a heads up, homeboy? Like, but that's kind of how BG got down. Like, snap, just like that. All of a sudden, he's WWFing this dude through his couch. So there's another time, my boy Brian, I don't know, he gets into some little funk with a couple of dudes out in the parking lot in the apartment. He comes running up. Hey, these dudes just tried to punk me. These dudes just tried to this and that. So me and BG tear off out the apartment. We go running down to find them. They start to split up and running. Me and Brian catch the one dude. Bing, 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 beat his ass a little bit. We come back over to my apartment. BG has this poor kid, and he snatches him by his hair and starts beating his head into somebody's door. These fools answer the door. BG's got this dude by his hair, yells at the people, shut your door, and starts slamming the dude's head again. Like, BG is off the hook. Now, right now, BG, he got popped. And he's probably about halfway through. They gave him, I think, 15 years. I'm going to shoot a letter up there to him. Let him know at least we're still thinking about him. You know, I mean, BG's wild as hell. I remember one time we were rolling around with this girl, April. And it's just me, BG, and April. We pull up to my house. And our boy Ray is there. Now, Ray, he's always with the business. Like, I've never really even seen Ray play around. He's just not that dude. So we get out. I didn't know that April was Ray's ex. Him and BG get to fighting right away. The quietest fight I've ever heard in my life, because it's 2 a.m. They're in front of my house. You wouldn't even know there was a fight going on if you weren't standing there watching it. BG gets in a car, starts, chirping. He says, hey, I'll be right back, and you'll know when it's me. About 10 minutes later, BG hits the corner, lighting off. Pow, pow, pow. He wasn't firing at us. He's firing way over our heads. And he's laughing as he's driving by and leaving. Like, that's who BG was. Like, just a knucklehead. So there's another time, we were deep in Cary Lee Court. And if you're from the west side of Las Vegas, especially like the Charleston and Jones area, you know Cary Lee Court. It's always popping. It's a dumb place. In our neighborhood, we had like 5 or 6 apartments in there at one time. Just us. We had just moved from our neighborhood basically into Cary Lee Court and took it over. So we got Little Brad Jr. and we got Clay. They're fighting over Lizard. Little Brad was with Lizard. She broke up with him. Now she's with Clay. All of a sudden, Little Brad and Ray show up out of nowhere in the middle of the night. We're all outside drinking. They jump out the ride. Ray comes running up. Our boy Jim and Jim, you would have to meet Jim. He's a really sweet dude. Not really about that life. He'll get down, but that's not his calling. You know what I'm saying? Like, he wasn't built for that. Ray comes up out of nowhere with a baseball bat, just smacks him. Bow, right in the head. Jim had to go to the hospital. Brain was all messed up. Jim was never the same. Our neighborhood just wild all the time. It never let up. It never let up. Especially like Lil Brad. He was a knucklehead. He showed up at my house drunk one night with a pistol. And this is before he had moved in with me. And we were beefing over, I don't know. God only knows. Me and Lil Brad always had something going. He shows up drunk, beating on my door. I have my friend Brian in there. Now Brian, he's one of those, I don't know, Chippendale? Yeah, one of them, helicoptering motherfuckers. All swole. Dude's got muscles on his head. HGH all the way, Barry Bonds. I don't care. He was a big dude. He hears the beating on the door. We're sitting in the living room doing whatever it is that we're doing. He goes to the door, whips it open. Lil Brad looks at him and backs up a little bit. Because, he's out there hooting and hollering, beating on the door drunk. Brian punches Lil Brad, takes his pistol, says, "That's mine," and shuts the door. Like, what the fuck? Now, poor Brian. We were at the apartments off of Charleston and Jones. And he had roommates. He had 2 roommates. One of those roommates took the other one's bus pass, used it, and put it back. But the other roommate couldn't let it go. So they start funking. They're pulling guns and everything. Brian tried to step in the middle of them, kind of like what he did with Lil Brad. Tried to grab the shotgun out of one of their hands, and the dude pulled the trigger on him. And Brian was gone before he even hit the floor. And the kid, he fought it saying, that Brian was huge and he was scared. And like the dude backed his way out of the apartment through the sliding glass door while he held the shotty on everybody. And then he ran, dumped it. I think he only got like 6-7 years. I tried to touch that dude while I was up there, but I couldn't. I didn't, he was riding with another car, and we were politicking with that car. He's a Southsider, I'm a Wood. You're supposed to drop personal beefs at the door. We were never in the same unit, so I could never just go do what I needed to do to feel better about what he had done to my friend. So that always got to me. There was a couple of them up there that I was after because of what they had done. And it irked me because I couldn't get to them. And I was never on the same yard as them. But that's what happened to Brian. Brian was a good dude. He was a really good guy. Kind of space cadet, but he was cool. He was cool for sure. Now, Little Man was the other black kid from our neighborhood. We saw each other in like maybe 06, 07 when I was locked up. They had sent me to County Overflow, and I told you guys I found the first person to fight so that I can get back to county. Well, when I got to the County Overflow, Little Man was there, but he was in an isolation cell. So the door was never open for us to even really chop it up. I threw him some soups. Crushed them up, threw them under the door. Here, Little Man, I got you, homie. We grew up together. I got you. He wasn't so little anymore either. Dude's like 6'2" now. One of the Woods, a dude that I knew from the streets that I didn't like, come over trying to politic, talking about why you give that black dude some soups. So I just fired on that fool. I didn't like him anyway. We had personal beef from the streets, and I just found this as my way to get back to county. So that was the fight that I had gotten in to go back to county and sit in the hole for a little bit and then get sent to North Tower. Basically, it was a perfect storm of me being able to get out of the orange jumpsuit and get into the blues. So our neighborhood, I mean, it was popping always. The good thing is all the people that lived in our neighborhood, they would never call the cops on us ever, because we would never do anything to disrespect them or their property. And we would never allow Rudy Poos to come around. Like, that's just who we were. It was nuts. It was always nuts. There was always something going on. There was always someone beefing. But when I look back at it, I wouldn't want to be raised any other way. You know, I mean, those dudes. And the thing is I don't really talk to many people from the neighborhood. I talk to A-Train. That's my best friend. I'm always going to talk to A-Train. I talk to Lizard. And I talk to a couple of other people. Other than that, nothing. Nothing. I do want to say this. Little Brad, I did the video on the Flanors. Little Brad's baby's mother got a hold of me, and it made me feel really good. You know, it's hard to tell a story like that, and but it needed to be told. So they got a hold of me. I actually got in contact with his daughter and got to tell her that I'm proud of her, and we're watching from afar, you know. So that felt really good too. So, I mean, I guess by doing this, I'm getting in touch a little more and more here and there with more of the neighborhood. But really, once we walked away from it, we walked away from it. And then I just moved on into something else in my life, you know. All right. Well, thank you for coming to Vegas Prison Stories. I know it's a short video, but here's the thing. Everybody says they want more content. So I'm trying to put out more content. So when I do these welcome to the neighborhood style videos, like they're easy. I just tell my story, boom, 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 make the video, right? But they're going to be a little bit shorter. I don't want to just go on and just have 5 hours of me talking about the neighborhood, which will end up being what it is once I'm done with all of these stories, for sure. I mean, for days. But I'm rambling, so thank you for coming to Vegas Prison Stories. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I hope you guys have an amazing day, and I'll see you next time. This is who I was, but it's definitely not who I am. Welcome to Vegas Prison Stories.